Hello. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the special webinar exclusively for our Dun & Bradstreet clients. The topic for today's webinar is Impact of COVID-19 on Businesses and the Way Ahead, focusing on the new normal. Our speaker today is Dr. Arun Singh, who is the Chief Economist at Dun & Bradstreet India. Before we begin the session, I would like to tell you all about certain things that we will follow during the webinar. All participants have been muted to avoid any kind of disruption during the webinar. There is a chat window on the screen where you can post your comments. At the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where you will see a pop-up window where you can ask your questions. So I request you all to kindly note down any question that you may have and ask the same during the Q&A session. During the presentation, we will ask you to vote on a few polls. Please cast your vote when you see a pop-up window that appears on your screen. We will display the result of the poll while in the webinar. I will now hand over the control to Dr. Arun Singh.
Thank you, Kaustubh. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on impact of COVID-19 on our businesses. I understand that how sensitive today we are, and unfortunately, we are in a phase that we have not seen such a scenario in the past. In fact, none of us in our lifetime we have seen such a scenario so far. So today I'm going to talk on how COVID-19 is going to impact us and what it means for all of us and how new normal will look like once things settle down. I am Arun Singh and a Chief Economist at Dun & Bradstreet. And without taking much of your time, let me take you directly to today's session. So today I'm going to talk about four important pieces. One, how COVID-19 is going to impact us, what is the basically impact of the COVID-19 on our businesses, economy, as well as some of the sectors, how we can weather this particular storm, and looking at the way ahead, how we can focus on the new norm, and where as a Dun & Bradstreet can help all of you in this period of crisis. Now, three specific questions everyone will have in their mind. In fact, most of us at this point of time, while we are listening to the webinar, might be asking to ourselves, might be asking to your colleague, might be asking to the outside world, outside your company. The three specific questions which we have at this point of time is that, what is the depth of the disruption? How deep are the demand reduction is going to be? What is the length of disruption? How long it could last? And what could be the shape of recovery look like once things settle down? These three specific questions everyone will have in their mind, because I just said that none of us have seen this type of crisis so far in a lifetime. Now, talking about a first piece, talking about the severity of this impact. When things started in month of January, when we started getting feeler from the Chinese economy, or the impact, the cases started emerging in the Chinese economy, what we basically first thing started talking to our customer, our vendor, and most of you, most of company in India and in the outside world started talking about that, since the COVID is going to be within Chinese economy, how we can shift our supply chain from China to the rest of the world. Unfortunately, when we were talking about how one can shift that supply chain from China to the rest of the world, mid of the February, things started deteriorating for the rest of the world. Now today, look at the dynamism have changed in just 1 month or 1.5 months. The things have completely changed. With Chinese economy, the number of cases, number of new cases in the of COVID-19 infection have plateaued. There's hardly very few cases coming up. In fact, less than 2,000 people are infected in the Chinese economy, as against 88,000 in some point of time. Whereas now that has moved to the rest of the world. Now 180 countries in the world got impacted, and unfortunately we don't see any sign of letting off, and we don't see how long that the surge will continue. So that's basically the severity of stuff, and then how supply chain disruption started in China and moved to the rest of the world. If we used to source our goods from China, there was a hope, there was a silver lining that at least we can diversify our customer or a vendor from China to rest of the world. But now things deteriorated so fast that it took just 1.5 months that entire world got into that ambit, and it's like everyone is into the big trouble. Moving to the next slide, if you see, fortunately there is some silver lining, and the things are moving in our favor. The number of cases in China plateaued, and now it's a flat completely. Back home in India, it's going up. If you see, look at the US, most impacted country from the COVID-19. Fortunately, your Spain and Italy, where we have seen a massive destruction, it's showing sign of plateauing off, showing sign of coming down to the normal zone. So that's one positive things happening from some of the countries globally. But back home in India, now things have started shaping with the different directions. So that there we need to watch on. Now that brings to the second question: that how long this will continue? How long things will continue at the same structure? It took in China, if I have to draw a conclusion from the China, it took exactly something around less than 28 days from 300 cases to peak of 80,000 cases infected by mid of February or early February. But from that period to come down to less than 2,000, it took roughly around 2 months. If I have to draw some conclusion or some experience of learning from Chinese economy, which means it will take at least 2 months from now. If I assume that number of cases in global is plateau, it will take at least 2 months from now to come to the normal zone, which means from now it will be like say June mid, where one can hope that company will start restoring their operation the way they used to do earlier, or they will start their operation what they used to do in a couple of months back, which means we have to be prepared at least for 2 months of the severe impact, not just India, also from the global countries. While some of the things will improve, some of the things will be relaxed, but at a massive level, that will take so much of time. And of course, that's based on the assumption that today, if I'm assuming that today it's like it's plateauing, it's a flat from a global perspective. That's the second question. Now, third question is that how recovery will look like from when things settle down. If you go back to previous economic disruption, go back to 1929, 1987, 2008 global financial crisis, and now corona outbreak crisis. Unfortunately, we do not have any experience from the economic losses from any of the infrastructure destruction or any sort of economic disruption where we can draw some conclusion that this type of disruption happened in the past. So how long it took for us to recover is completely out of economic shock. So there's a two shocks. One shock originates within the economy. It's driven by normal economic demand and supply mismatch and the response of the government and monetary authority. And there is other shock is completely outside of the economy. That's corona virus outbreak is completely outside of the economy. Historically, if you see, Dow Jones Industrial Average declined by 87% in the Great Depression period, 1929, and it took 6 months to decline from a top to the bottom. During 1987 crisis, Dow Jones Industrial Average declined by 36%, but it took 2 months to decline from top to bottom. And during global financial crisis in 2008, after the Lehman crisis, Dow Jones Industrial Average declined by 54%, and it took 17 months from top to the bottom. And it was a gradual fall. Now, in coronavirus outbreak, it took just 1.5 months to decline 37% from a top to bottom. Now, if you look at the recovery during last three crisis period, it took 22 years during the 1929 Great Depression. It took 2 years during 1987 crisis period, and it took roughly around 5 years to recover during 2008 global financial crisis. Now today, none of us have a concrete evidence, concrete answer how long it will take to recover the economy. One thing, one silver lining, as I said, that fortunately this shock is not from the economic shock; it's outside shock, which means when recovery starts, the recovery will be much faster than what we had seen in the previous 3 years, because we had demand, we had a controlled demand. In fact, in the month of January, when we did survey of 300 CEOs and 300 CFOs, we found that the business optimism revived, and business optimism was multi-quarter, multi-year high during the Jan to March quarter. But the survey was done in the February, which means manufacturers, service owners, the small businesses, consumer, everyone was optimistic. Why we are down? Because of the coronavirus outbreak. Things revive, things control. It makes imminent sense for the government to control. The moment it controls, the recovery in the economy will be much faster than what it used to be. Now, what it means for all of us, why one should worry about this, why one should be, one should feel impacted about this one, because one company based out of, let's say, Pune, one company based out of the Coimbatore, Visakhapatnam, Kolkata, their manufacturing unit, they don't have any exposure to the global guy, how they will feel that how they are impacted, because if it's a global company, global product, or all the companies are impacted by this one, how they feel impacted, because there are three layer of impact, three channel of impact. One, the global linkages. Any of the Indian company have a stake in any of the global counterpart, sister companies, things like that. That's one way of impact. Second impact, the supply chain impact. Your vendor is based out of the country where it's most impacted, and then you're not getting enough supply. The third is your own macroeconomic factor, investment flows, financial market, currency market, and all these are basically purely to your domestic market. In spite of the fact that you're not exposed to the global customer, global vendor, you will feel impacted because of your own domestic economy is not doing good or not moving in the same direction what you used to move. So everyone, each and every entity in India going to be get impacted. The severity and then quantum of impact will differ from sector to region to the market and to the area which they are operating from. Now, globally, if you see that we have written down most of our global foreign direct investment, unemployment rate, and of course the GDP size. GDP, when we estimated by end of March 2020, we found that it's a 1 billion reduction, $1 billion reduction, sorry, 1 trillion US dollar reduction from the earlier estimate, and that estimate is till March 2020. Just assume that if that we are doing analysis in June 2020, that will go up significantly, and I'm not ruling out if that can become a double or triple, because that's the impact we are looking at. That's the impact we are expecting from the everyone. That's one thing. Now, 1 trillion economy is 1/3 of the India GDP, 1/3 of almost more than 1/3 of Indian economy, which means from a world map till March 2020, we have wiped out 1/3 of Indian economy, and the global unemployment rate is likely to go up by 25 million. and of course the 15% reduction in the global foreign direct investment. That's the impact on the global economy. Now back home in India, in our database, we found that there are 6,600 companies who got a global linkages, who got some sort of linkage, and their vendor, the partner are based out of country where the country most impacted by the COVID-19. If you see the USA, the percentage share of the trade they do is a 32%, and followed by the Germany and UK, and of course Japan. More than 60% of these 6,600 companies are impacted because of the top country they do trade, they are impacted. In fact, all 6,600 companies are impacted, but the severity of the impact is more with the US economy. So which means that 32% of that company are going to be impacted. And if I have to draw the number of company in India, I mean, if I have to say that 99% of the company are MSMEs, and the company which I'm talking about, 6,600, they are fairly large and mid-sized company, and they contribute significantly to the India GDP. So which means one can assume that impact of COVID-19 is going to have on this set of company, and eventually on India and India GDP. 50% of export import what these companies do are linked to the set of countries were most impacted by the COVID-19, and of course the US and Germany is one example of that. Now, looking at some of the sectors where they are operating, these 6,600 companies, 23% of these companies are basically the business services, followed by the depository institution at 12%, and the engineering accounting, and followed by the industrial and commercial machinery. These are based on the ascending order of their exposure to these economies and the impact one can assume on the sector. So which means if anything goes wrong, the business services sector will have a maximum impact of the COVID-19, and the recovery period will be delayed because the repercussion on them will be huge. 62% of the company, what we found, belongs to the services sector in totality, and just 35% of the company belongs to the manufacturing sector. Now, moving on, what it means for all of us from the business continuity perspective. This is going to pose our several organizational risks that start from the supply chain, goes to the operational risk, goes to the financial risk, and the market risk. The first thing when we get impacted by any of such crises is basically supply chain risk. Our raw material availability go for a toss. The cost of input starts fluctuating. You have a quality risk because of you're not finding appropriate vendor or the current vendor to supply. That's very critical for the companies in the high engineering goods or automobile or some other quality related industries. That's gone for toss. That's the second level of impact is basically the operational risk. Now you have a supply disruption. The second that your own business continuity risk at risk, your IT risk is going to create a problem, your compliance risk, and then of course your production and the rest of the things is going to be tossed. Once that two things hit the company, the third element, which will basically come maybe next month or month after or in one quarter down the line, is the credit risk and investment risk. Basically, the most of the company are likely to be going into the red, not just from the profitability or sales perspective, also from the payment to the vendor to the rest of the other set of the stakeholders, and that is going to create a massive pain, especially to the MSME segment, because they struggle two front. One, they are dependent on the overall economy, and they are follower in that sense. They are dependent on the overall economic framework. Second, they are also dependent on the payment from their customer, because they get very late. In fact, if I have to believe my data, the significant number of the companies pay them beyond 90 days to the MSME. So that's the biggest pain they're going to face, and eventually the market risk issues. One silver lining and one hope is coming from the Chinese economy, that when we did survey in the last month in the Chinese economy, we found that most of the province in China started the operation. 96% of the company in Southwest China, and 89% of the company in East China, 88% company in the South China started their operation by end of March, and rest of the except India, where Central China, where just 62% of companies resume operation. All are more than 70% or 90% of the companies have resumed their operation, which is basically a good sign for the company who are sourcing their input from China, and that basically they can assume that input will be basically the input supply will be resumed, especially for the sector where we hope that some relaxation will be given after 20th, or some of the activities which we are engaged in or we are doing, whether we are a services sector, whether we are a manufacturing sector. That's one hope we can see. What it means for India, so far we have looked at certain sectors, their impact, the COVID-19 impact on these sectors. So we have looked at something around 20 sectors odd, and we divided into two categories: one the negative impact, one in the positive impact. One in the negative impact, we have further classified depending on the severity of their impact in the three broad categories: one the severe negative impact, high negative impact, and then moderate negative impact. Within the severe negative impact, we have a gems and jewelry, entertainment, hospitality, transport, livestock, tourism. These are the sectors basically going to have a maximum impact. Then there are retail, wholesale trade, electronics, banking, and MSME is going to have a high negative impact. Then the third category is basically drugs and pharma, automotive, textile, metals, going to have a moderate negative impact. But the positive things on the other side, that we have a remote working application, on the top media services, on online gaming, e-education, all the app, all the digital solution to provide to support work from home type of sector are going to have a massive advantage at this point of time. The idea of putting together, so there's basically the three consideration we had when we put together a framework to analyze the impact of COVID-19 on sectors. One, there will be a sectors where we basically they have to forgone the revenues. Let's say tourism. Now we have planned our tourism now. Once things resume, is not going to come back, which means this will come to next year. So the loss they are going to have, basically they have to forget that loss. That loss they are not going to recoup in any condition, any situation. Second, there are group of sectors where basically they will be able to recover the ground which they are going to lose at this point of time. Which means, let's say, for example, if I have a tendency, or if I have a plan to buy a car or trucks from the gross material product perspective, once things normalize, I'm going to buy stuff for sure. It's just that we have deferred our demand at this point of time. And third consideration we had, that there are a group of sectors who are basically dependent on themselves, as well as they're dependent on other sectors. For example, you have a metal, you have a cement, you have a steel, and you have a logistics sectors, because they are dependent on the overall economic activity revive beside on themselves. That's basically stuff. What it mean for all of us from a recovery perspective? So we also use this 3-point consideration to work around some mechanism that how the recovery will look like for these sectors once everything settled down. So we assume then by June, while it's in staggered way, if most of the companies start operation, it will take for some of the sector to recover up to 6 months, some of the sectors up to 1 year, and some of the sectors after 1 year. Now, some of the sector after 1 year will be basically the sectors who basically have to either they are dependent on the development of some other sectors, or they have to lose some of the revenue at this point of time. Like, for example, entertainment, hospitality, tourism, MSME, electronics, and automotive. They will take more than a year to recover. Then there are logistics and metals, will take 7 to 12 months to recover. But there are other stuff which basically partially working, let's say retail trade, wholesale trade, drugs and pharma, textile. There are the sectors basically partially working, which will be basically take just 6 months to revive, to recover. The idea of this is basically to understand what is the impact of COVID-19 from the supply side, from the demand side, and how what response each and every company has toward the COVID-19. Because what COVID-19 started is just a purely a supply side shock. Now that's moved to the demand side shock. The third level impact will have a company bankruptcy, will have a financial crisis, will have a uh, will have a severe credit crunch. Now the banking fraternity and of course the government is trying to provide support to that front, but it depends on the resilience and agility of each and every company, how they are taking head on to the COVID-19 and going to basically move on and take the things as it is, because this is not going to be over for next 1 week or 2 weeks. This is going to be a long term. And what is a learning for all of us, that this scenario is not a one time event, may happen in the future, which means the business model has to move to the way that this should be taken as a new normal. And basically we can't be stopping our own activity. We have to basically uh, uh, start our operation in a way that what we used to do. Let's I mean the idea is to find out how good framework we are able to design and put together, so that we are not feeling that much of pain what couple of weeks or couple of months back we used to pain. Now with that we are moving to that I'm concluding one section of the presentation. Before I move to the second section of presentation, we have one poll to understand your perspective on certain questions. DNB, can I can I request DNB to carry out that poll on the screen, please? Yeah, that's great to see that most of us are basically expecting the recovery to be basically up to 1 year. And let's move to the second section of today's PPT. How, as a company, we can basically, uh, you know, sail through, how we can basically take this storm, this crisis, and head on, and still get a success, during this period of crisis. What we have looked at, basically, DNB is tracking the development, very closely. Our analysis shows that in the past period of crisis during 2001 dot-com crisis and 2008 the great depression crisis, what we had is Lehman crisis. And what we have seen that during these phases, there's a significant surge in the bankruptcy in the USA. It's something around 35 to 40%, the surge in the bankruptcy rate during this period of crisis. And what we have seen, something around 1 lakh company got, more than 1 lakh company got bankrupt during these phases. And the velocity of bankruptcy was almost 3 to 4 times, 2 to 3 times, in fact, something roughly around 3 times higher than what we have seen during the economic expansion of 2010 to 2019. The summary of this slide is basically that after economic expansion, when we see any type of economic crisis, whether talk about the 1997 crisis or talk about the dot-com recession or whether talk about the great recession, what you call the crisis, that bankruptcy rate goes to something around, I mean, in fact, increased by 35 to 40%. That's a significantly very high number. How to avoid that, how to not to get into the trap? Basically, we charted out 2x2 metrics plan. One, the two, it's a basically 4 angle view of that. 2 angle is basically on the strategic position, whether it's strong or weak. The second angle is basically the financial strength, and the two financial strength, whether it's a weak or strong. Uh, each of you, if a company feel that on a financial strength they're weak, as well as on the strategic position they're weak, the only way out at this point of time is spin off certain business unit, sell stake in the company. The if moving to the other side of financial strength, when the company feels that they're very strong into the financial strength, but low or weak in terms of the strategic position, the simple stuff is that one should create a core areas of the competitiveness and secure some of the funding to strengthen your core areas. The top right box is where basically a company feel very strong in terms of the financial strength and very strong in terms of the strategic position. Invest in the product leadership, grab attractive merger and acquisition opportunity what available in the market at this point of time. That basically will help you to sail through this problem, the period of crisis. And then of course the company who are weak in terms of the financial strength but very strong in terms of the strategic position, undertake strategic cost transformation program, focus on the core areas of the competitiveness. The idea of this slide is to basically each and every of company and each and every of us basically are falling into the 4 category of categorization depending on the financial strength and the strategic position. We need to decide which box, which element of these metrics we are in and take appropriate call to sail through this storm. What it mean for the resilient company and agile company? What we have looked at in the past period of crisis, in the various crises, we have basically looked at the data of resilient companies and the non-resilient companies. How we say that they are resilient companies and how we say that they are not resilient companies. Basically, the resilient companies, they have taken 3 action during the period of crisis or the moment the crisis period starts. One, they clean their balance sheet. They reduce their debt by more than $1 for every dollar of total capital on their balance sheet. While their non-resilient company, they've added $3 of debt during that phase. When the recovery started, they used that opportunity. The second thing which they did, they cut the cost ahead of the curve. And the third thing which they basically did, that they focused on their core strength. They focused on their core and then put money into the core piece to enlarge the bracket. Result of that all the result company who did all the 3 activity on the previous slide, they were able to change their EBITDA in 2009 after the 2008 crisis by 25 percentage point higher than the non-resilient company from from a bottom of the fall of the non-resilient company. On the cumulative total returns during 2007 to 2017, they have contributed something around 150 percentage point higher than the non-resilient company. Now, this is very clear that during the crisis period, what company have done, the three important things, and followed that 2 by 2 metrics, they have outperformed the company who unfortunately did not do what they're supposed to do. Now that brings to the second poll of the day, just to help us to understand your perspective and how you will do when you get into this type of scenario or position. So can I request DNB to show the second poll, please? Okay, thank you. So we got a result for the second poll, which says that 62% of you, uh, you know, feel that the capital expenditure will be the first thing going to be cut, followed by the marketing and advertising expenditure, and third, of course, the employee and employee-related benefit will be the third element of the expenditure which going to be sacrificed during this period of crisis. Now, moving on, the third part of today's presentation, what basically for all of us the new normal look like and how this new normal is going to help us to in order to sail through this type of crisis, not just today, also in the future. So basically the five things we are required to do. One, onboard an appropriate balance of risk. The second part, the consider supply chain data. The third, maintain customer relationship at this point of time. The fourth, perform ongoing portfolio management. And the five, and very critical part, let's get back to our basics with the 5 C's of the credit. What each of mean for all of us, I will explain with one slide each on each subject. So when we are in a period of, what you say that economic prosperity or minimum bankruptcies, we are basically set some framework, some mechanism where basically we extend our credit to the most of the companies in the in our vendor or customer framework. Need of R, reassess your company's credit policy to recalibrate the portfolio risk profile for new and each and every existing customer which we have on our panel. That's the first thing everyone should be doing. The second thing is that consider supply chain data. What we're doing today, we basically look at how my suppliers are doing that. The idea here is how the suppliers is doing and how suppliers. So there are 3 to 4 layer of supplier assessment has to be done at this point of time, because the suppliers getting disrupted in terms of the input cost. Eventually that will impact me either form of the quality or the cost of the input. The need to have entire chain reassessed in terms of their disruption, in terms of their input cost or their input supply, which country they are importing, or which part of the world they are getting raw material, which they are producing and selling it to us. That's one thing. The third part, maintain the customer relationship. Now, most of us do. There's many things basically. One, uh, giving a extended credit line, or maybe some discount, some other stuff, which basically stay close to the customer in this period of time, where basically customer should get the feeling that as a company we are with them to help them in order to navigate this period of crisis, which means basically there will be a lot of realignment required from your internal finance, sales, operation, to keep everyone informed about the cash flows, because that will have an impact on your cash flows as well, because you're going to take a call which will help the customer in this period of time. The fourth important part is the perform ongoing portfolio management. uh, Many of companies during this period of time going to face many legal as well as the financial challenge, maybe basically some lawsuits against that. Maybe there are some of the companies that having trouble in terms of paying to the vendor or to some other party, bankruptcy issues. Is there any credit problem happening with the customer? We need to monitor the portfolio at this point of time. And the fifth and very critical point is that the 5 C's of credit. That's basically the character, capacity, capital, condition, and then collateral. All 5 C's need to be assessed very carefully and before we move and take a call in terms of the product, in terms of the client, or in terms of the overall market assessment. These 5 things basically on a credit leader's guide will help to navigate in this, in this period of crisis. Now that brings back to the third poll. That's the last poll of the day today, and I'm happy to see how all of us feel in terms of their feedback on various options they are going to face going forward. Can I request DNB to flash the third question of the day? Yeah. So I think more than 50% of you feel that you're planning to onboard alternate vendors. Basically, now the planning has started at a vendor level, that how they want to channelize their sourcing to new set of vendor. Now that brings us to the last part of presentation today, that how as a DNB can help all of you. So at a global level, what we are doing, we are basically we are constructing a DNB overall business impact index. Our analytics team are looking at various options and various industry level data, digital data, layoff data, inquiries data, food traffic data, and the productivity of the companies, and then their vendor and their customer disruption. We are basically testing some of the index which will basically uh, give a score, not just to from a supply perspective, also from a demand perspective. That's what we're going to launch, and it's basically going to help each of you from assessing the impact on your businesses, and not just your business, impact on your customer and your and the vendor, so as you can define your framework and strategy to approach the market. That's one thing. Now, last part is that, of course, there are some of the sectors which we are doing, and we are working around that. If any one of us feels that for a detailed research, detailed report, please write to us. There are many things which basically where we can help in terms of the detailed risk and assessment of your vendor supply chain, assessment. We can also help in terms of the portfolio management, and of course the most important part, the 5 C's of the credit, that will basically help each of us to navigate during this period of crisis. There are health pipeline scan which we are doing, where basically if you share some of your data of your vendor based out of some of the impacted countries, we will help you to understand how that country, how that company are impacted, and how that impact is going to create impact on you. That's basically we are helping at this point of time to our companies and to our clients. So that's one thing. With that, I'm concluding my session today, and I'm happy for Q&A. Thank you for listening to me. So, I think someone has asked me that whether the recorded webinar will be available or not. So, of course, after that presentation, DNB will send you the PPT as well as recorded version of this, which you can send it to your customer for to take things forward. So, one question basically on what you call impact on the banking sector. That said, there's a two impact. One, today what's happening, and most of the public sector banks will get impacted at this point of time, is that given the 3-month moratorium period extended, now they're not going to take any particular call on that. The unfortunate event that the banking industry is around roughly around 10% of the overall lending is basically the non-performing asset. It's one of the highest in the world. So that's the banking industry currently massively impacted by the economic slowdown, what we have seen in last 5 years, and the banking industry already going into the crunch. Now with this, there's a two set of problem emerge from the public sector bank, because they will be asked to have a helping hand to the masses. They're going to get an impact on the NPA further. That's one thing. Second, from a private sector bank, they're not going to be completely safe. They're not going to be outlier from the overall economic slowdown perspective, because there will be most of the bankruptcy will happen, most of the payment disruption will happen. It's not just 3-month moratorium provided to the masses. It's basically once COVID-19 over, once economy start recovery, most of the companies, especially the MSME segment, will feel the pain, and of course your payment behavior will get impacted, and hence your NPA will go up. So that's going to get that each and every section of the bank, each and every segment of the bank is going to have an impact on the bank. So they said that for a recovery period, it will certainly be more than a year, because it's not just today, it's not just next 2 months, 3 months, they are already in the trouble. They're already with 10% NPA. It's very difficult for them to manage that existing 10% NPA and then getting a new set of NPAs. It will take a more than a year to come to the normal level, to come to the level where they are today. So it's like more than 1 year for all the set of banks. So I just said now the one question on the impact on MSME or the large corporates. One, MSME is basically the two part. MSME depend on themselves, the economic cycle, and second, they depend on the large corporate. Now, the economic cycle already impacted because most of the, out of, we have estimated something around 81 million economic entities in India. Now, 81 million economic entities include street vendor on the on the road, and as well as the big group companies. That's basically 81 million entities comprised of. Out of that, 27 million economic entities are basically what we call the commercially visible. They employ out of permanent establishment, or they employ some labor, or at least one labor. And these 27 million economic entity contribute something around 1/3 to the economic GDP and something around 1/3 to the non-farm labor. One can understand the importance of this MSME. The unfortunately 94% in the more than 90% of these economic entities are informal sector. The problem with this sector, the problem with this company, it's very hard to absorb the 1 month of inactivity because of the lockdown happening. Because of the inactivity, it will be very hard for them to absorb, because in terms of the payment, in terms of their own working capital management, in terms of their overall production cycle, it's going to get severely disrupted because they do not have enough buffer to survive without any production for a particular day. So that's one massive impact they're going to face. Second, now the second layer problem they're going to face from the payment side, as I said, that they are going to have a severe working capital problem, and that's government role to how fast they are going to revive this sector from a payment perspective. That's one thing. The third important part, the large company are basically the customer. Sometimes a significant number of large companies that delay their payment to the MSMEs, and with this they will have the no reason to delay further. So one can assume that they are going to get impacted by through three sections of the economic cycle, whereas large corporate, they have enough buffer to manage. It's just that their profitability for some quarter or some 1 year will go down. Those things should move on. Now, certainly, there's one question on how countries will be beneficial from China meltdown or movement of their operation from China. See, what's happening at this point of time, and because of this COVID-19 crisis, there has to be massive changes in the global economic and the policy framework. There will be a various realignment will be happening from the trade perspective. There will be various realignment will be happening from what you call policy perspective, where there will be various realignment will be happening from a investment perspective, and so as your manufacturing base and stuff like that. Now it's up to the company to decide what region, which country, which area they are comfortable in from a legal, from labor, from a financial perspective. And of course, now what will happen after this crisis, there will be a fourth or fifth angle to the company assessment of the risk. Of course, the medical or healthcare or some other risk. Basically, this type of COVID-19 will create another type of risk matrix. What normally we basically do at this point of time, along with the customer, vendor, stuff like that. So that consideration will be definitely there from any country and from any company perspective. And before setting up their operation in any country, that consideration will be on the top of the priority. That's now I think I have already explained the 5 C's of the credit. So most of you will get answer or through PPT where you'll get all the detail about that. Now, so there's a question on the automobile part, automobile manufacturer. So there's the two things. One, in India, if you talk about automobile OEMs, the manufacturers, they source auto component from a tier one, and the tier one source from the tier two, and from tier two they source from a tier three. So there's a whole chain in the automobile industry who basically source goods from various partners. These companies source goods from the various countries, from China or outside China, and they do that one. The problem was happening, and these are the high quality input, and there's no sacrifice available. The problem is that once everything's set from that particular vendor, and you are getting enough supply from that, it's very difficult to move to the some other supply, because that will take some time. But that gradually has to happen over the 6 month or 1 month period of time, because we just did the one survey on the automobile, and we found that sometime it takes more than a year to even think about how consideration has to be given to the vendor, and then the movement of the vendor, because that's a time frame it's required to move, because there's high things. So it certainly is going to be impacted from the quality perspective, from the input availability perspective. Even if you move to some other source, the cost of input, the cost of automobile is certainly going to go up. And then if you're supplying to foreign car companies, of course, the quality is utmost priority and importance. So that's going to certainly get impacted, and then impact will be severe. And that's what we are assuming, and we are hoping that the recovery will be prolonged, and it will take more than a year to recover fully. So one, I think there's a payment. There was a question on the payment made by government to their vendors on ongoing contracts. So I think government have shown a sign of what you call taking this crisis head on, and has shown their resolve to solve the problem, and that's what they're doing. When they talk about first ease of doing business in India, they have the first phase of announcement. Second, the phase of announcement in terms of the stimulus measure, package for the masses, for the poor India. And the third part, where basically the monetary mechanism, RBI intervened and then given a support to that front. And of course, there are measures government is working at this point of time to resolve the much bigger problem, and in terms of providing support. I do not expect any impact on the payment made by the government to their vendors. That has to be ongoing, that has to be continuing, that has to be on topmost priority. Because if they're asking a company to not to cut the payment, or not to terminate employee on their basically the mass, they are rampant on that. So basically they start from the government itself. So that's the flexibility is there. I think government have shown that tendency, and that's what they're doing to and they have to start the things from that perspective. Now, certainly, at a DNB we can, we can help you in terms of, your joint venture investors. So I can ask some of our partners, some of our colleagues to get in touch with you. That's basically one can do at this point of time. I think I have already answered on the automotive industry, so that's taken care of. Now, one question is that how moratorium will be like say beneficial or not. See, at least 3 months. Uh, the 3 month period is basically is going to create some sort of trouble for the banking and then government fraternity. That's for sure, and that's going to be the important part at this point of time is that they have given a 3 month period where from a payment perspective as a consumer or as a company or as a business owner are not worried about this one. They can focus on some other stuff which will help them to bring down their cost, and it will be able to help them to bring them back to the business. So that certainly is beneficial, and I'm hoping and I'm expecting that thing should continue, and that thing should be extended further, not just the same nature, maybe evolved version, or the I can say the second version of the current stuff, and I'm hoping that should continue at this point of time, and that's good for the economy. And certainly there's a big opportunity for India. I feel I just said that when the COVID-19 impact is normal, when we assume that things come to the normal and there's no infection happening, and when the global authority start deciding their political game plan, when they start deciding their investment opportunity, when they start deciding the policy framework on the trade and various channel, it will be good for India to showcase that capability. We started the Make in India initiative, but it's progressing. That means more effort needs to be taken in order to make it big. Now that's one option, because then when the realignment will happen, once things settle down, then India will have opportunity in the realignment phase. So certainly we feel that it's a good option for India to move on. So I think one question we have on the rupee performance. If you see rupee performance, the impact is already visible. One can see it's like 2019 we have seen the impact, and now we are looking at the impact. Historically, if you see last 10-year or 15-year data, if you can pick up, and if you see that, if you can see that anything goes wrong, even in 2008 financial crisis that was originated in US, the dollar is strengthening, because the US always considered the safe country, and the dollar is considered as the safe currency, and the US is always considered as the safe haven for them. And it's not about rupees depreciating, is about the dollar is appreciating. So that's basically the change, and certainly your rupee is going to get impacted, and it will remain weak for at least 2020 onward. So one, I think the another question I can see that export insurance will be extended or not. I certainly feel that it will be extended, because that impact is still not gone, and government is cognizant of that fact, and that will certainly be extended at this point of time, and that's a need of the hour. So I think there is one question that after the COVID-19, companies can move to India from China. Of course, and then, I said that after things settle down, there will be realignment will happen at a global level, and that realignment, the nature of the realignment will be, let's say, policy, the investment and production per house. and then shifting the base, that all consideration will be given. Now at this point of time, what we can what India can do, they can basically showcase their capability, how they are how they are capacitized to take on this opportunity. Certainly there's a huge opportunity for Indian companies. Now, I think there's a multiple questions I can see on basically the opportunity for India. Certainly, I mean, when realignment happening, there will be basically good opportunity for all of us, and that's what is coming up. Now, I just said that what is the new normal look like? Today, we all are connected. I mean, we all are connected on this webinar, but the distance between each of you will be certainly more than 10 kilometers. And that's a basically new normal. And in this scenario, how we are going to adopt the cashless or the digital economy, that basically is going to be a critical part, and that's gone up. If you see, look at the in the digital penetration, it's certainly very high at this point of time. It's going to go up, so there's not going to have a major there's going to have a major positive impact on this segment of the economy. So I think there are few questions I can see uh, you know uh, I can see a few questions basically talking about what government should be doing to provide the fiscal stimulus measures, what government should be doing to help the masses, what government should be doing to ensure that manufacturing industries or some other stuff are getting relief. Trust me, the government is working hard, and they are basically involved, created a group of economists. And I know some of the economists, what level of engagement happening. They are looking at each and every corner of the sector, each and every corner of the economy, to come back to the what looking like the sector specific announcement, sector specific stuff at this point of time. And that's they are working, and that's the my advice will be to the government. It's not like a blanket proposal, blanket stimulus measure. It's not going to be, and that should not be the case, because each and every sector, each and every segment of the economy will have a different level of impact. That's what I said, that the severe, moderate, and high impact everyone is going to have. Severity means in terms of the ranking, severe will be the sector where going to get a maximum hit, and the recovery will take a long time. The announcement from the government has to be at that level, so as they are getting a benefit, not just they are they are not feeling one-off case in terms of the benefit receivers. That's happening. That's basically government working around it. It's just a matter of time when the government can announce, and in fact, I would advise the same thing to the government at this point of time. Now, what I can see, there are I would request DNB to say on that. There are many questions. What we can do, I can put together, because we have already 15-minute cross scheduled time. I will ask, I will personally write answer for all the question and email it to you with the presentation and the recording of this video. And I think the DNB can take it from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Thank you all our participants for today's webinar. Due to the time constraint, what we would request you is, I'm typing an email ID that will be available. So you can send in any other questions that you might have. You can write to us at this email ID, and we will try our best and answer each and every one of them as soon as possible.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I've put in the email ID for all of you. You can note this, it's india@dnb.com. So you can write to us with any further queries, any requests, and we will respond to you on that. Thank you so much for being a part of this webinar again. Thank you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you.